you guys. Yes, yes, that is the energy. You know what? One thing I'm really bad at is being canceled. I am just not good at it. I am not good at it. And here's the thing, I love it. I love the comebacks. Actually was just backstage and found out I'm #1 on Apple Podcasts after they tried. I mean, it's one thing to try to cancel Candace, it's another thing to try to cancel Jesus Christ. That was like a unforced error. Well, let me tell you something, America. It does feel so good to go everywhere in the world and to realize that there's awakening not just happening here. Let me tell you guys, it's happening all across the globe. People are starting to ask the hard questions. And you know you start getting close when they start to call you names. They instantly want to suggest that there's something wrong and there's something backwards about being America first. You're starting to hear the way they're framing that now. When you say you're America first, they'll ask you, what do you mean you're America first? Do you mean that you're an isolationist? Do you believe that we shouldn't have did what we did during World War II? All of these things trying to pollute it. It's not that difficult. America first. First name America, last name first. We put this country's interests before the interests of foreign countries overseas. All of them. I don't care. And suddenly, we're living in a country where we have presidential candidates that get on stage and they're not comfortable with that, right? We're seeing people get on stage left and right and they're not comfortable with the idea of not mining taxpayer dollars and sending them overseas into some black budget so that the state can come back to us and say, we actually have no idea where all the billions went, but good luck feeding your family, right? They're not comfortable. They question you. I had to shut down Piers Morgan a couple of days ago as he was... And they always frame it, like I said, it's just a game of name calling, right? You're isolationist. What was his thing? Oh, well, if you don't support Zelensky, then it must mean you support Putin. You must be a Putin puppet if you don't want to send your billions of dollars, your billions of tax-paying dollars to a corrupted oligarch in Ukraine, because that's exactly what he is. They try to make it seem like there's something wrong with not wanting to fight endless wars. For realizing you wake up and you go, we're fighting all these wars, and our borders are porous. We're defending Zelensky's borders, and we can't defend our own? Are you kidding me? You're going to suggest that there is something wrong with the idea that we want to put our citizens first? And it would be one thing. It would be one thing if we sent our boys overseas and they came back and they were treated well. Look at the way they treat our veterans. Look at the way they treat our veterans. Look at the VA. It's a disaster. You mean to tell me that our veterans get one day and the LGBTQLM never-ending alphabet community gets an entire month? Really comprehend how disrespectful that is. Really comprehend what it really means when these journalists come at you and they ask you why you don't worship the LGBTQIA never-ending dyslexic agenda. That's why I'm getting dyslexia. With this alphabet soup community. Everybody's got a problem. Everybody has a feeling. I'm non-binary. I'm a fish today, you know. And I feel like you're not respecting my fish pronouns. And so we're going to need longer than a month. We're going to need an entire quarter to teach people these things. Really think about what it means when you have journalists up there that are lecturing us about pronouns and they don't think about the people that go over and they serve this country. They don't think about the people that fight for our freedoms every single day. It appears to me that they resent the American people. They resent the American people. And the answer to why that is because we understand that these are state actors. We understand that these journalists, of course, this dream that we were sold in school, you know, when I was majoring in journalism and learning that the New York Times is a trusted source. You actually learn this if you major in journalism. Like, how do you know if you're looking at real news? Well, if it's the New York Times, it's definitely true. That's what they teach you in school. If it's CNN, it's definitely true. That's actually what you learn as you are studying journalism in school. They want you to be programmed to do the bidding of the state. And when you go through that process and you recognize that these journalists are doing exactly that, they are protecting state interests. They are protecting the interests of a very small few at the expense of all of us. I think the worst thing is that it's not just at the expense of all of us. Now it is at the expense of children, right? Of children. You know, I get it. I get it. Sometimes it's hard really to comprehend what it is that the left is doing because they're insane. They're just insane. Every day, it's like they wake up and there's a problem, you know? You have to ask them, is there anything right? Is there anything right in your life? Is there anything you like about this country? Is there anything that's good about this country? No. Every day, they're arguing about things that we just did not have issues regarding growing up. I mean, who would have ever thought that one day we would be debating bathroom signs? They're not inclusive enough. You know, they're not inclusive enough. Now you go to college campuses and the kids are all being asked to write down all of their pronouns. That's what they're asking kids to do, to respect their pronouns and to make sure that the bathrooms have these preambles on them that say any person or species can go here. And you wonder, how did we get here? How did America get to this place? What are they doing with feminism? Encouraging women to act like men, right? Constantly telling women, brainwashing them in the school system to think that men are awful. The patriarchy is always out to get them. The patriarchy is behind every door. And encouraging women to act like men. Abandon your natural biological instincts. Abandon the concept of wanting to start a family and go climb the corporate ladder. And so women are pursuing those things to their own detriment. Women aren't happy. Women don't want to work 80-hour weeks and to make $35,000 a year just so you can say that you have a career. Because what? Beyonce said, like, you know, some feminist things, and Taylor Swift said some feminist things, and now you're suddenly on some sort of a program, and you haven't even stopped to look up and actually think about what it is that provides you value and what makes you happy. And then feminism is simultaneously telling our men to act like women? Does that make any sense? Have more feelings, cry more, comprehend toxic masculinity, all of these fruity phrases, right? There's something inherently wrong with being a man. Stop doing that thing when you're acting like men. That's what they're saying, right? And then you have them constantly working on our children in the classrooms. And this really is a thing that women have got to understand. The big mistake of letting the state step into our households and decide that they're going to raise our children. Free school, they said. Education, everybody deserves an education. That was the pitch. The fact of the matter is we've never handed out more degrees in our society. We've never produced dumber kids. And I'm talking about actually factually dumber kids. Mathematically speaking, in terms of their English writing, these are the dumbest kids that we've ever produced. That's a fact. I was saying earlier to a group of kids, go back, do yourself a favor, just Google it. Go read one of the letters that like an 18-year-old soldier wrote during the Civil War when he was just writing to his mom back at home. It sounded like poetry. These kids today can't even write sentences, right? They can't even write sentences. And you have the majority of kids right now, I think it's 40% actually, not the majority, 40% of kids in America cannot pass a basic literacy exam. And yet we're handing out tons of degrees. We're actually we're saying, okay, well, now if they get a 70%, let's just call that a B. They're getting rid of AP classes and honors courses, right? They want everybody to feel good, even though they don't know anything. And you need to understand this because that is the beginning of everything. What they're actually doing, and pay attention really close, is they're recreating slavery. They're recreating slavery. There is a reason that the slave codes, inherent in the slave codes, was the inability. You were not allowed to teach a slave how to learn to read. Why? Think about that. Why? Why was that such an important slave code that even if you were a slave owner and you were caught teaching a slave how to read, you were punished? What was the reason? Because an educated mind cannot be enslaved. The state knows that. So their initiative is, how do I make you think, this is what the state is doing, how do I make you think you're the most educated person in the world when in fact you know nothing? You don't know how to take care of yourself. You don't even know what gender you are. right? You don't even know what gender you are. You've been in school. You've got all these degrees. They're feeling so confident. I majored in gender studies for 4 years, paid $100,000. I majored in gender studies. I majored in feminist dance theory. 4 years. I'm so smart. I know all about feminist dance theory. Here's a degree. Okay, here's a degree. And what happens is these kids get out in the world and they know nothing. They can't survive. These kids don't know how to work with their hands. They don't know how to change a light bulb. These kids are convinced that they are so brilliant because they're holding a meaningless piece of paper and they don't even know how to change a tire. And what automatically happens is they start to resent the people that do. You want to talk about why there are constantly these depictions of people in the South, conservatives. Oh, they're backwards, they're white, they're racist. The people in the South, they're not like the New York City latte-sipping writers who write hit pieces about Candace Owens. No, he's so brilliant. How am I going to get her today? This is how they act, and they think they know everything. These people can't survive. They're slaves. They don't even know they're slaves. They don't even know. Greatest example of that is COVID. Man, if that was not a psychological test on America. Psychological test. And I'll tell you what it was about. I'll tell you what it was about. It was about the government trying to see if they had successfully created a system where people would believe they were God. God. Literally. They were just like, let's just make stuff up and see if people abide by our ridiculous commandments. Commandment number 1, 6 feet social distancing. I said, no way people are going to do this. Suddenly I went into the grocery store and I was watching people do this on the pads. Walking around like robots on the pads. God forbid you forgot something, right? You couldn't go backwards. You had to go all the way back around. You're like, just a cereal I was just going to grab. The person behind you's looking like, no, no, no. I'm like, surely this is not real. And they had the mask policies that made entirely no sense. You're on a plane. They're like, well, if you're 2, you don't need a mask. If you're 3, you do. I'm like, okay, wait, no, I'm sorry. Can you explain the science? Doesn't matter. Get kicked out of the plane. You'll be banned for life if you don't abide by these mask mandates. Suddenly they're saying to people, don't go see your family on Thanksgiving. No. Government really testing you, right? Do you love your family more than you trust the government? Trust the experts? Trust Fauci? Trust the state? And sure enough, people got in line. And then they wanted to see if you would give them your bodily autonomy. Would you make a sacrifice, you know? If we said it enough times, if we got enough of our little mockingbirds to just keep repeating these phrases, a true experiment in mass brainwashing, would you do it? Wear a mask, save lives. Don't go see your grandma. Stay home, save lives. And people were doing this. You should always pause and reflect on what a great evil that was done with the mainstream media complicit in this evil to allow people to die alone, to allow people to have side effects from vaccines, the censorship that took place online, people that were trying to communicate some of the side effects so people could at least make reasonable decisions, decide if they wanted to take the risk and get the vaccine. They weren't even allowing speech. Let me tell you something right now. Whoever it is that is calling for speech to be censored is a liar, okay? A liar. I don't care what the subject is. You should be allowed to hear the debate. I do not care who the person is. You should be allowed to hear what they say because you know what? You're smart enough to understand what you are listening to. You don't need the government to censor ideas for you. The government is not your God. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The devil has, the government has very much become the devil in our lives. And speaking to that point, because now that we understand what it is that they are actually attacking, when you look around and you're wondering, what are all of these things that connect these various topics? COVID, you've got the freaking environmental lobby, right? The kids skipping school because they think the planet's going to die in 10 years. Because they don't know if they tell us all the planet's going to die in 10 years, right? We were all told in school we were going to die in 10 years. global warming, global cooling, the ozone layer, acid rain. You know, they kind of pick a thing and then it doesn't happen. And then they just pick another thing. Trust the science, trust the experts, la, 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 we got it. And you wonder, what's that got to do with the trans agenda? What's that got to do with the LGBTQIA never-ending month, the non-binary fishes that are walking around? What's that got to do with COVID? What's that got to do with the bathroom signs? What's that got to do with feminism? And the answer is simple. Family. The government is trying to destroy and corrupt the biggest guard against the government, stable families. My friend Jack Posobiec often says something, and it's true. You want to be a rebel? Start a family. Start a big family. Have kids. Get married. Right? That's the truth. You revisit those topics, and you realize they are telling these kids who are afraid that the planet is going to be over, that it would be irresponsible for them to have kids. That's what's at the end of that ideology. Trust the government. Give us your money. We'll fix the planet. You give us your tax dollars. We'll fix the temperature somehow. And don't have kids because the planet's going to be over in 10 years. To the feminists, they say, well, look at the patriarchy. Wouldn't you rather just be a lesbian, right? To men, like they're suddenly making women something that men don't desire. They're making men something women don't desire. Listen, fellas, I love you. But when you cry all the time, maybe one sad tear at your daughter's graduation, one lone tear. But now you've got these men, and they don't know how to lead. There is no strength because they're making masculinity a dirty word. And let me tell you something right now. There is no society that can survive without strong men. None. And the other half of that equation is understanding that women, these men are not our opposites. These are our brothers. These are our fathers. These are the men that we marry. We raise these men up. They are our sons. We cannot lose the opportunity to stand up for men, because it's going to take women understanding that men and masculinity and manhood are under attack for a reason. It is because the government knows the risk of what it means when there is a masculine society. Who do you think it is that is going to protect us from the government? Joe Biden casually said, I'm not kidding, the other day, casually said about guns. He said, doesn't really matter. I don't know why these conservatives want to keep their guns. By the way, I'm speaking English. He kind of mumbled. Mumble. But the point he got out was, who cares about guns? You guys would need F-15s, he said, if you wanted to stand up against the government. Boy, I'll tell you, I must have purchased 10 more guns that day. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Women, be feminine. Men, be masculine. Understand that the goal is to pollute us from coming together so that we can establish families. And to both women and men, when you do come together and you do start a family, for the love of God, put Christ first. This is our country. I will leave you with this. Correct. And we're going to lead out on that chant. This is our country. America is a country that was founded on Christian principles, right? And they understood that. They understood that. And let me tell you something right now. If you think that the full weight of the government is after Trump, you would be right. But understand that the full weight of the government, Trump is just one step. They've always been after Jesus Christ. Christ is King. Thank you guys so much for having me.
to waste. The whole country is falling apart. We are on the doorstep of World War III. This is the America that Joe Biden created. People want common sense, they want their life back, and they know who delivered it for them. We are fighting back stronger and stronger, and this movement is only getting started.
Whoa! How we doing? You got a few people here, Charlie.
Got a couple people.
Wow.
And, there'll be even more here tomorrow for President Donald Trump.
Anybody excited to see Donald Trump here? Well, he's coming here. Before we get started, I just want to let everybody know, Donald Trump is coming to Michigan because we're taking Michigan back, and then we're taking the country back on November 5th, just so you know. Yeah.
So I am so excited to have you here, Laura. We've known each other for a while.
Yes.
And we've been in the trenches together. And I think I've built up a lot of credibility to say this, everybody, over the last year. So I've been somewhat critical of the prior RNC stuff. I am thrilled that Laura Trump is now the co-chair of the RNC, aren't you? And
thank you.
You're doing a great job. Let's get right into it. I don't know if you guys know this, but you here are at a crime scene. Do you know this? This is where they counted the ballots in 2020. This convention center. Now, of course, I'm sorry. Safe, secure, most amazing election.
Oh, yeah, that one.
But, no, literally, it happened right here. They rented this out, and they didn't allow any observers here, right here. Laura, you're here actually launching a new election integrity task force. Tell us all about it.
Yes, our top priorities at the RNC, we have two priorities. Get out the vote and protect the ballot. So those are the priorities, and we know who will get out the vote for us. It's Donald J. Trump, right? The greatest candidate we could possibly have. Of course, all the down ballot races will be helped out because he is on the ticket as well. He will inspire people to get out and vote. And I'm going to ask you in a few minutes to get involved as well. But before we get there, our other top priority is election integrity. Because, Charlie, let's face it, if we don't have free, fair, and transparent elections, nothing else matters. And that is our goal at the RNC. And by the way, every single person in this country, regardless of how you vote, should want free and fair elections. So, right before I came here, I was about 30 minutes away with the chairman of the RNC, Michael Whatley. He and I started here in the state of Michigan, launching our election integrity program. And what we want to do is train 100,000 people all across this country to be part of that team. Now, what does that mean? That means we want poll watchers, but not just that. We want poll workers. We have a unique opportunity right now that we have not had in 40 years as a party. For 40 years, there was a consent decree placed upon the RNC that did not allow us to train people to work as poll workers. Now think about that for a second. Who was training, Charlie? All the people for the past 40 years, not the RNC. Think about how many people the DNC got to train to work in these polling locations. Yes. So now we have this amazing opportunity so we can train you to work in a polling location. We can train you to work in a tabulation center where the mail-in ballots come in. We also want attorneys to work in every major polling location so we are not reactive, we are proactive. The second you see an issue, we address it. We're going to have war rooms set up all across this country and every state as well to deal with things as they happen, not days, weeks, or months later. So protectthevote.com is the website. Again, protectthevote.com. If you want to be part of our team, we will come to you and we will train you in your state, give you everything you need to know. Any lawyers in the audience or listening, if you are a lawyer, you do not have to be trained in election law. We will train you on exactly what you need to be looking out for. It will take a Herculean effort to fight back against all the nonsense
and all the nefarious activities that we know happen out there. But this year is the year we do it. We are also sending a loud and clear message out there to anyone who thinks about cheating in an election. If you cheat in an election, we will find you, we will track you down, and we will prosecute you to the full extent of the law. So we launched it today. We're taking it all the way. The first day early voting starts all the way up until November 5th. And that's how we are going to protect the ballot this time around. We can never repeat 2020 ever again, ladies and gentlemen.
This is so incredibly important, and this is different than in 2020. In 2020, let's be honest, we were caught flat-footed, and some of the people that were in charge did not do their job. And we will never allow that to happen again. Laura, you just said something incredibly profound I want to repeat. For 40 years, our Republicans were not allowed to be poll workers. Big difference. So when they were counting ballots here at this convention center, and they were saying you're not allowed to watch, those are poll watchers they were excluding. Now you could be on the inside as poll workers. Can you dive deeper into more detail? Because I think our audience needs to know that, hey, I want to get involved. I want to become a poll worker. Tell us more about this.
This is the person, when you go in to vote, who hands you a ballot, to whom you hand a ballot, who helps you there in the polling locations. You can physically handle these ballots. You can count how many ballots come in, and you will know how many ballots should go out. The level of transparency that will allow for with us is huge. That is an incredible opportunity that we now have. And by the way, Charlie, do you know why this consent decree was lifted? Here's what happened. 40 years ago, there was a Democrat judge who placed this consent decree upon the RNC. Every year for 40 years, he would re-up the thing every year, every year, every year. So we could not actually do this. The only reason it was lifted is because this judge died about a year ago, and they lifted the consent decree. That's why. Yes. So it died with him. And I want to let you guys know something else. If you've come to our physical office in Washington, D.C., the RNC headquarters, the bulk of the staff we have at that office is solely focused on this issue, day in, day out, every hour of every single day, because nothing is more important. This will be a free, fair, and transparent election. We're going to work hard for it.
I am thrilled and impressed. Let's talk about how the RNC and the Trump campaign are really working as one. This is very important because some people say, I don't quite understand. What is all this? Talk about how there's a symbiotic and harmonic relationship now.
Yeah, so I know it's hard to believe because I don't look a day over 20, but this is my third presidential election cycle that I've been through. I know. So the previous two presidential elections, the RNC and the Trump campaign worked side by side, but we really weren't, as Charlie's mentioning, one cohesive unit. We are that now. We have fully merged forces. There is no daylight between the RNC and the Trump campaign. The advantage that gives us is that we don't have multiple people doing multiple jobs. We have one person doing one job for both entities. That means the money that is donated to the RNC and the Trump campaign is able to go farther. That means the goal at hand and the task at hand is laser focused by these people. We're not wasting time. We are not wasting money. So in the 48 hours after Donald Trump's verdict was read in that sham show trial in Manhattan, and we raised $70 million, that means that money goes further. We are working as one unit, and that is going to ensure success come November 5th as well.
And every single person has a role to play here. And so another element of this is how groups like Turning Point Action and other outside groups are now able to work on door knocking and canvassing with the campaign. And we've been talking a lot about that openly. I think one of the greatest frauds, though, on the American people is our own people not showing up to vote. So it's a two-pronged strategy. We must secure the vote, but we also must make sure that every single one of our own people are registered to vote and to vote. And let me just be clear. If you're attending this event and you're not registered to vote, go to tpaction.com/vote and get that done in like 30 seconds. I mean, that is the least you can do. And I want to tell you a quick story and then throw it back to you, Laura. I live in Arizona. We have to win Arizona, by the way. It is mission critical to win Arizona. I am obsessing about it, and I started to see the data of how many people support us but are not voting or registered to vote. I found it hard to believe. So I'd be out and about at dinner, and someone would come up, Charlie, I see you on TikTok. I listen to your podcast. Can I have a selfie? And I'd start to ask, are you registered to vote? A shocking number of people who watch our content, who even wear Trump gear, are not registered to vote. Laura, can you talk about how we are doing fraud to ourselves if we stay at home, not vote, and not get our friends to vote as well?
This is a must-win election, right? We all know that. It's palpable across the country what is at stake. It is not just our right as an American citizen. It is our duty to ensure that we get out and vote. And Charlie's exactly right. There are so many people out there who say, oh, yeah, I like Donald Trump. I support Donald Trump. But they're maybe not registered to vote, or maybe they are registered to vote, but they're a little harder to mobilize. They're what we call low propensity voters. We have just launched Trump Force 47. What that is a community effort. That means every person in this room, you can participate. We want neighbor-to-neighbor contact. Who better to talk to your neighbor than someone they already know, right? You have to identify a certain number of people, and that is your goal. You get them out to vote. Get your neighbors, get your friends, get your family, get your dentist, get everybody you know. I don't care, as long as they're voting the right way, out to vote. If you want to be part of this team, TrumpForce47.com is the website. All of us have a role to play. We cannot sit idly by on the sidelines in this election. I'm traveling the country as the co-chair of the RNC, and I'm honored to do it. But I have 2 young kids at home. They are 4 and 6 years old, and I can tell you it is very hard when I leave my children, but I'm out here doing it for them. Because this isn't about us right now. This is about the future of America. And we all have a role that we can play. So we want everyone to get engaged, and we want to also make sure everybody understands we're going to have to play this game differently, right? We can't continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. It's literally the definition of insanity. So we have our election integrity program that we started at the RNC. That is a first of its kind effort. We also are trying to make sure that every person in this country is reached. And we started applying this in the primaries. Did you notice how Donald Trump won more primary votes in each state than in the history of primaries? Did you notice that? That's the Trump Force 47. That is this effort. That is a peer-to-peer contact effort. We can all get involved. We can all be a part of it, and we all must be a part of it to ensure victory on November 5th.
And it can start as easy as this. Step 1, buy a MAGA hat. Step 2, go in public with that MAGA hat.
I see a lot of them here.
Right? No,
yes.
This is important. Step 3, someone comes up and compliments your MAGA hat. Step 4, ask them if they're registered to vote. If they are not, show them how they can get registered to vote. tpaction.com/vote or whatever. You can draw people into conversations in public places, and they can register to vote right there, and you show them how to do it, and they're the one registering, and it's incredibly important. Low propensity voters will make or break the future of America.
Well, can I comment on that very quickly? If you think about what this election came down to in 2020, it was really literally thousands of votes that this came down to. And so another thing we're going to have to attack differently is things like legal ballot harvesting, which we are going to do all over this country. If the Democrats can do it, so can we. We got to fight fire with fire. We also have to start encouraging people to vote early. And let me tell you why. I know as Republicans, we want the perfect ideal day. We want one day of voting. We want paper ballots, and we want voter ID. I want that too, and we can get there. But we've got to play the hand that we're dealt right now. And the hand that we're dealt is that we have an election season. And so what that means is that we want to make sure you get your vote in. Think back to the election that Kari Lake had in, speaking of Arizona. We literally saw a voting precinct on election day. This was a red district. We know how these people would have voted. They would have voted for Kari Lake. That entire precinct shut down because the machine stopped operating. line wrapped around the block on Election Day. None of those people got to vote. You could argue Carrie Lake may have won her election had that not happened. So what do we want from you? We want you to get your vote banked. We're taking care of the rest at the RNC. We are ensuring that that vote counts. However you can vote, early vote, mail-in vote, whatever you need to do, get your vote in as early and in whatever way you can. And then you take every day from that moment up until Election Day, taking somebody to go vote. Take your friends, again, take your family, drive them in your car if you have to, buy them a sandwich if you have to after. We know the Democrats love to do that. Whatever you need to do it and get them to go vote. And then what that does for us on the other end is it allows us to use our resources to target the rest of those low propensity voters. We don't have to worry about your vote. You don't have to worry that you're going to have a voting precinct, breakdown, that you're going to have life happen. Your kid gets sick. You get called into work that day. Whatever it is, bank your vote and then take someone with you to go vote every day from that point
and also, some of you might not know this, you can vote early in person. It's called in-person early voting, which you might think the only way to vote early is by mail-in voting.
Wrong, yeah.
You could do in-person early voting, which, by the way, that form of voting, Republicans in Florida win 80% of in-person early votes, and it's one of the reasons why Florida has become such a deep red state. Now, hear me out. I have been a late convert to what Laura just said, but I believe everything because I saw it with my own eyes. I showed up at my local precinct in Scottsdale, Arizona at 8 a.m., ready to go vote in person. And I said, boy, these lines, they're so long. Carrie's going to win. And why are the lines so long? No one's moving. 2-3 hour waiting lines. People getting out of line with disgust. Oh, forget it. All the machines failed. Now, I think it very well might have been intentional, but that's a separate issue. Where half of our precincts on voting day were sabotaged. Half of them. So you have to think to yourself, would it have been better if some of those people would have voted in person and early the days that were followed before? You see, we have to adjust and adapt our game plan. And if you say, Charlie, I'm willing to wait 4 hours in line to vote for Trump on game day, God bless you. You are a 4 out of 4 voter. I'm not here to debate. But hey, if you might have sick kids, like Laura said, if you might have to go bring kids to a soccer game, let's think about this. The state of Georgia was determined by 11,000 votes in 2020. Arizona was determined by 10,000 votes. Wisconsin was determined by 21,000 votes. If he would have been declared the winner, we know what really happened, would have been declared the winner in all 3 of those states, he would have served as another term as president. Let's now think about this as we go forward, especially low propensity voters, people that say, I don't know if I'm going to vote at all. They definitely won't show up on Election Day, everybody. They're the ones that are the least likely to vote. They're the ones that we definitely need to try to get into the early voting model and drive them out. Laura, in closing here, what is the message of this campaign? What is the message you are bringing forward against Joe Biden, drawing contrast? What are the top points you want our activists to bring back to their communities?
We have an amazing opportunity right now that we've never had in modern American history, which is you can compare 2 presidents and 2 presidencies. And I think it's about quality of life at this point. And everyone, everywhere in this country, I don't care where you live, I don't care what job you do, you have seen your quality of life decline since Joe Biden became president of the United States. It was $1.87 a gallon to fill up your gas tank when Donald Trump was president. That was the national average. We had a secure southern border when Donald Trump was president. We had a peace agreement signed in the Middle East instead of wars in the Middle East. You had trade agreements signed with Mexico, with Canada, with China. Peace talks with Kim Jong-un to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. Peace through strength. That was the motto of Donald Trump. We had a robust and able-bodied military who was battle-ready on day one. And people knew that when Donald Trump said something, Donald Trump meant it, and they didn't even try. So you have to make that contrast for people out there, because there are some people who watch the wrong thing out there, get their news from the wrong information sources, and they've been bamboozled a little bit, shall we say. But you have an opportunity right now, because people are hurting everywhere in this country. You have to tell people you don't have to love everything that Donald Trump used to tweet, but now posts on Truth Social, right? You don't have to love it, but you do have to look at the policies, and that's the difference between Republicans and Democrats. We speak in truth and facts on this side. The other side is all emotion-based. Bring people back to the truth, bring people back to the facts, bring people back to how their lives will every day be impacted with Donald Trump back in the White House. And I believe we will see him reelected as our 47th president on November 5th of this year.
Laura Trump, everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thanks.
Has never failed to deliver.
Their administration is absolutely lawless.
So it seems to me the Democrats have no problem going to keep this border crisis going and blocking every attempt that Republicans make to stop the crime and secure the border.
We ought to come together and start talking about what we believe in and then fight for those things. It's time to cowboy up and fight like hell to turn this country around.
It's great to be in Michigan. Now, it would be better to be in Florida. So, first off, it's wonderful to be here. I want to thank Charlie and everybody at Turning Point. But let me just finish with what Laura and Charlie are talking about. I know you guys are talking about grassroots, getting out the vote, all those things. Let me tell you the impact of it. I've won 2 governor's races by less than 100,000 votes. I won the last Senate race by 10,000 votes. Right? Election night, my Ann and I got married when we were 19, so we already have grandkids. My 7-year-old grandson said to me, this is 2018, he said, "Grandpa, am I going to be on television?" He said, "I want my friends to see me on television." I said, his name's August. I said, "August, you're going to be on television whatever happens tonight." Now, every poll said I was going to lose. I've never had a poll in any of my races that said I was going to win. Right? So we won, and we announced that night we won by 57,000 votes. That's the good news. Now, let me tell you what happened. The next day, Mark Elias, the Democrat lawyer, flew down to Florida. He said, "I don't care what the votes are. We're going to win through the courts." If it hadn't been for 7,000 volunteers, poll watchers, people watching the polls, we went through 3 recounts. If people hadn't shown up, and they actually showed up from all over the country, we would have lost. So what Laura's talking about, what Charlie's talking about, we've got to get our votes out early, bank every vote you can, bug the living crap out of everybody. So go vote early. If you can vote by absentee, go vote. Don't wait for Election Day. Tell them all those emails, all those texts will end if you vote early. And get our votes and win these elections. That's how we're going to win in 2024. If we don't fight like hell, we're not going to win. So I hope you listen to what they said, because it really matters. Now, look, I think it's great that we have all these conservatives in Michigan. I think maybe your governor up here could learn a few things. Look, she loves Florida. I mean, don't you remember through COVID? I mean, she told everybody, she demanded, warned everybody, do not leave the state. She shut down all the businesses. She shut down the whole economy. And she said, I'm staying right here in Michigan. She didn't. She came to Florida. She came to Florida after she lied and said she was staying here, but she said, oh, and you know how she got there? She took a private plane that she never paid for, and finally when she got caught, she said, it's okay. I was just meeting with relatives. What a hypocrite. So that's what's going on. In this country, what these left-wingers say is that we have rules for you guys, but not for us. You know, Nancy Pelosi can go out there and get her hair done, but nobody else. So first off, what you're doing matters. What you're doing is going to matter in 2024, 2026, 2028. Yesterday's old Republican Party, led by Washington insiders, is over, and you are the reason. Now look, all these Washington insiders, when they go run for office, they're the most conservative people that you can imagine. They believe in the Constitution. They want to follow the rules, lower taxes, smaller government, all those things. But when the Washington insiders get to D.C., what do? More taxes, bigger government, more rules, more regulation. They can't think, they can't remember what they talked about when they were on the campaign trail. Think about it. That's how we got to, how much debt do we have? Almost $35 trillion. Now, in the Senate, just so you know, it takes 60 votes. Democrats don't have 60 votes. I've been up there 5.5 years. They've had, the maximum they've had is what they have now, 51 votes. So how did they get all this stuff done? Washington insiders. They believe think about this. How many people you think in this country are working age, 16 to 64, not working? 100 million. Because these Washington insiders think that they should take your money and give it to them. So they don't have to work. Think how many people, and that's how we have all these college protesters, because they don't have to work. These Washington insiders say, oh yeah, we're going to secure the border. Not really. They're just going to say they're going to secure the border and pass a bill that doesn't have anything to do with border security. And these Washington insiders, they're a little bit embarrassed to talk about the things we believe in. Our faith, our family, small government, our communities. Because you know why? They know the mainstream media, they don't like that stuff, they want to be liked by them. They want to be part of the in crowd. This has got to end. Enough with the Washington insiders that are ruining this country. Now, Donald Trump had 4 years. He's going to have another 4 years. What's going to slow him down? Washington insiders. Because he's going to need a House and a Senate that supports his agenda. If we don't get new leadership, we'll get the same old stuff. More spending, more debt, higher interest rates, higher inflation. So let's talk about where we are right now. We got an open border. It's completely open. If you've been down the border, I've been down the border. They throw all their IDs away on the Mexico side. They say, I'm Joe Blow. I want to go to Michigan, and we, with your tax dollars, are paid to come up here. Drugs, terrorist criminals. We've got over 100,000 people dying of drug overdoses. 100,000 friends, family members. Sheriff was telling me the other day, 70% of the drugs that are not bought through a pharmacy now have fentanyl. Thanks to Communist China. Communist China, we buy our drugs from them, we buy our households from them, we buy everything we can from them, and they are trying to destroy our way of life. We need to wake up, stop buying anything made in Communist China. How many of you, now look, Biden tries to say that, oh, inflation, oh, it's down, right? Have you been to the grocery store lately? Bought gas? Bought a house? Look, how do normal people afford to live in this country? What's causing it is this massive government spending that causes inflation, causes interest rates to go up, and then Joe Biden trying to kill our fossil fuel industry so gas prices go up. This has got to end. Now, did you guys remember the withdrawal from Afghanistan? Okay, so how many people you think came to this country on those planes? 77,000. How many were American citizens? 5,000. How many had special visas? 2,500. Did they vet any of these people? No. I'm sure there's some wonderful people, but we have no idea who we brought in. They don't know where they are, but you paid for them. And by the way, we lost 13, right then at Kabul Airport, we lost 13 service members. Has anybody been held accountable in the Biden administration? Nobody. Look at our military. They're focused on pronouns. While Communist China is building military ships faster than we are, right? Communist China is building a military way bigger than ours. And what's our military leadership doing? We're good at pronouns. This is crazy. Think about this. We got men playing in women's sports. So they're destroying women's sports, paying people not to work. We got crime rampant. No, they go prosecute Donald Trump. But boy, if you go beat up a cop, nothing happens to you. So when I was a kid, I was worried enough if I did anything wrong about my mom, but I knew something I'd be held accountable, right? But not anymore. We're appeasing dictators all over the world, Xi in China, Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua. They can do it, Iran, name it. We appease them, and then we wonder why, wonder why the left is taking over the world. We got Jewish students scared to death to go to their campus, while the leadership of these elite institutions protect these protesters, which makes no sense. At GW University, so I tried to go meet with the Jewish student leaders, with the president. She still to this day has not met with the Jewish leaders, student leaders. But those protesters, they were all fine. Look at housing now. Price of housing is way up. Interest rates have skyrocketed. If you bought a house for $500,000 the day before Biden took office, for that same house payment, you could only buy about a $175,000 house today. Young people are never going to be able to buy a house. Look at tuition in our universities. By the way, Florida has the lowest tuition in our university system in the country. #1 public university system in the country. When I became governor in 2011, we stopped all tuition increases. I thought tuition was supposed to be low to make sure everybody could get an education. But now tuition over $50,000 a year, and what? You can get a $20 an hour job. It's crazy what's going on all across the country. So here's the deal. We can say, oh yeah, this is all because Democrats are in charge, and they are. They got the White House, they got the Senate, they had the House. But guess what? Our problem is we have Washington insiders and leadership that have gone along with Chuck Schumer. It takes 60 votes. We have Republicans in the Senate that are caving to Democrats for all sorts of horrible bills. Now, remember this so-called infrastructure bill that was a Green New Deal? That required Republican votes. Guess who gave it to him? Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, said, Chuck Schumer says, how many votes do you need? And Mitch McConnell shows up with them. And now we have Green
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage President of Club 47, Larry Snowden.
Thank you, thank you. Welcome, everyone. When we were here last October, some of you complained about the sound system, said we didn't have enough sound. Did we fix it? Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for coming tonight. This is Club 47's largest event, so I'm going to ask you to find your seats. We've got quite a lineup of speakers coming up right behind me, and I would appreciate it if you find your seats and give these great people your attention.
Budget in 20 years. We are going into default on our debt. We had lost 800,000 jobs in 4 years. We had a big budget deficit walking into the race. We were going into default on our debt. It was not as big as responsibilities of the federal government. Every problem we had fiscally, we had it in Florida. And guess what? We fixed it. Not one person. All of us together. I got a great legislature. I got a great business community. I got great mayors and county commissions. We did it, and we changed the state. And now people want to move there. So here's where we are. You can make a difference. This group by yourself, if you think of this, remember the numbers that Charlie just talked about, how the number of votes it takes to win? So many of these states, we lose by 10 or 15 or 20,000 votes. You can get that many votes. Every one of you can impact 500 votes. And if you work the whole time, you'd impact way more. Every one of you can be a poll watcher and make sure there's no fraud. So the way you win, here's the way we're going to win. If you want to, I'm running statewide in Florida as an example. I'm going to get all the Republican and all the independents and all the Democrats that vote for me, that vote for somebody in the local race, for every school board race, every mayor's race, every city council, everybody that votes for them, everybody that votes for a Republican, I'm going to get their vote. So if I want to win, I want all those people to win. If you want Trump to win, and we want Trump to win badly, we've given so much power to the president, Trump has got to win. But if you want to win, you've got to maximize every vote. So for every election, every mayor's election, school board, go get every vote you can. Don't take any, even if it's a purely Republican district, get every Republican voter, every independent that's going to vote for us, get everybody to the polls. And here's what's going to happen. If we do that, next year, the first thing will happen, we'll have a secure border. Crime will go down. It will happen overnight. Number two, we'll have optimism in this country. We will elect people that are going to balance the budget, start watching your money. We will have accountability. We won't allow this political persecution of Republicans. Right? And we'll hold people accountable. Like we'll hold people like Fauci accountable for all of his lies. So I just implore you, between now and November, every day, what you can do to get the message out that we have to get every vote. And then, so in your states, whatever state you're in, whenever you can do absentee vote, get every absentee ballot you can in as early as you can. When there's early voting, vote early. If you're in Chicago, people say vote often, but you can't do that in most places. And then on election day, you've got to get every vote in. If we do, next year is going to be a hell of a year. And if we don't, just think what it's going to be like. Biden will never secure the border. inflation will never go down. Nothing's going to get better. The military will not get better. And guess what? She will continue to get stronger. He'll continue to get stronger. We'll have dictatorships all over the world that Biden will continue to appease. I mean, look at what he's doing in Cuba. Since the 1960s, have we had Russian warships coming into Cuba? Right now, 30 miles off the coast of my state, all because of Biden. So, let me just tell you, it's wonderful to be here. I'm very appreciative of Turning Point. I'm very appreciative of Charlie. Charlie's been a big supporter in my race for leadership in the Senate. But I'm doing this for one reason. I've been blessed. I was born to a single mom. I grew up in public housing. I grew up in a country that my mom could legitimately say to me, I don't care that we don't have any money. You can be anything. That's a hell of a country. If we don't win this November, the idea of this country, the whole idea of this country, that you can be anything, the American dream, is dying. That's not fair. It's not fair to any of our kids, our grandkids, anybody in this country. We can change this country. It is our opportunity. Let's go build the most kick-ass country in the world. God bless.
Water could make a statement. What if it could symbolize your commitment to values like freedom, individuality, and self-reliance? Freedom 2.0 water isn't just about what's inside the bottle. It's about the message it sends with every sip. This is what I drink on every spillover episode. With labels like, this water isn't free, but your speech is. It's not just refreshing. It's rebellious, and it's unapologetic to drink this in public. Can you freaking believe it? But that's where we are. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary acts, like taking a sip of water, can be infused with meaning and purpose. So why does it matter? Why should we care about the source and sustainability of our water or the message on the label? Because every single choice that we make, no matter how small, shapes the world around us. By choosing to drink Freedom 2.0, you're not just choosing a brand, you're choosing to stand up for what you believe in. You're choosing to support companies that share your values and prioritize your freedoms. Try Freedom 2.0 and tag me in your Instagram story for a repost. Hold on, drink break. Not like as good as the Welch's grape juice girl, but just, disregard that. Let's show the world that every gulp is more than just hydration. It's the Declaration of Independence. Keep sipping, stay hydrated, and always be free. Go to freedom20.com today. That's freedom20.com. Speak your thirst. Protect the first.
Dad went up, but when he got to the top of the bend and stepped out onto the corn, the rest of the corn fell on top of him. They got tractors, ripped the grain bin apart, dug for him frantically, and the ambulance took him to town. They worked on him for hours, but unfortunately, we're not able to bring him back.
She took it really hard when he was killed.
Just thinking, how are we going to get through the next 24 hours? It was hard.
She just took over, and there was no question that we were not going to sell the farm. They were going to farm. There's some kind of a drive in her that makes her get up in the morning and get the job done.
We're not talking about shutting down the country.
Businesses across the country forced to shut their doors, already leading to absolutely stunning increases on unemployment claims.
Right now in America, our civil liberties are under attack.
There's a lot of states that completely shut down their economies and took away people's freedoms and rights.
I decided that South Dakota would not be mandating any shutdowns.
If you look back to Governor Noem's decision to open up Mount Rushmore for 4th of July celebration at that critical time in COVID, it was also inspiring for Americans across the country.
And at a time in our country's history when everywhere else in large cities people were tearing down statues, we gave the world a view of people enjoying their freedom and celebrating America for what it stands for.
If you want to know what my dad was like, just spend a day with Kristi. Kristi is a fighter. If you don't believe that, just pick a fight with her.
I will continue to fight for the conservative values that have guided me my entire life.
Thank you so much, and may God bless the great state of South Dakota. Have a wonderful day.
She is the first woman to be a governor of South Dakota, plus she spent time in Congress and the state legislature.
I think America needs to wake up. We have our enemy among us. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. I've never seen a solution come out of the federal government that actually made something better.
We are going to start fixing what's broken and make sure that we're putting America first again.
Good evening. How are you guys? You look fantastic. Oh my goodness, Turning Point. Are you ready to make America great again? Yes, you look like it. Listen, I'm standing here today. My name's Kristi. I'm the governor of the great state of South Dakota, as you just saw. And I am 100% convinced that our best days are still ahead. Our best days are still ahead. Do you want to know why I have that kind of confidence? I want to tell you, this last week I had the chance to go to Ellsworth Air Force Base. That's the Air Force Base in South Dakota that has the B-1 bombers. The B-1 bombers are the platform that protects this country right now. In fact, those bombs that we dropped in Iraq and Syria recently, they were my guys, my airmen out of South Dakota, running the B-1s, taking retaliation for the bloodshed that was brought on Tower 22 and vindicating for the lives that were taken. And they said they delivered the pain and anguish back for the Americans that were killed to those who attacked us and stood for our freedom. But I went to that base, and when I stood there, the reason I was there was because the wing commander was retiring, and they were installing a new commander over the wing. The base has a commander, but then the bomber wing has another commander as well. And when I went to that retirement ceremony, it was interesting to me because as the base commander stood in front of everyone, he said, I interviewed all of the people who work for the wing, and the one statement that they said consistently about this wing commander as he retires is that he consistently had sustained optimism while facing difficulties. And I thought, wow, what an incredible thing for your team to say about you, that you have sustained optimism while facing difficulties. He also had these 4 points of advice for the new wing commander that would be in charge of our bombers that would protect America into the future. He said, number 1, achieve success on purpose. Achieve success on purpose, which means have a clarity of mission, know exactly what you're going to do. Number 2 was to remember the importance of people. Your people are your everything. Number 3, make productive mistakes. Create an environment where people are willing to take a risk, that they know that they'll take a risk to get ultimate success and know they'll be supported in that. And then when you make a mistake, learn from it. Those 4 pieces of advice I thought were incredibly powerful for us in this next election cycle. That we have a mission and clarity of purpose, that we remember it's about the people. It's not about governors and senators and all these government officials. It's certainly not about Fauci. It's not about Nancy Pelosi. And dear Lord, we all know Joe Biden sucks, right? We're pretty clear on that? Absolutely. It's about the people. In South Dakota, our motto is under God, the people rule. I love that motto. It reminds me every day about what my job is. It's not to be the people decide. And we get our rights from God. We get our rights from God. Now, while the whole world was losing its mind during COVID and falling apart and slamming the door shut and locking people in their homes, South Dakota made a very different choice. We ended up being the only state in the country that never once closed a single business. We never mandated any masks or vaccines. I never even defined what an essential business was because I don't believe the government has the ability or the authority to tell you that your business is an essential. We also were the only state in the entire country that didn't take the elevated unemployment benefits. We said, thank you, Mr. President, for the flexibility, but our people want to work. And they did. They worked the entire time. And when you saw those riots and violence happening across the country, tearing down our monuments, our history and statues, instead, South Dakota, we did a national advertising campaign saying, come to South Dakota. And specifically to our law enforcement officers, we said, if you want to be respected, come to our state. We'll wrap our arms around your family. That very first week, we had over 800 law enforcement officers say, we want to come to South Dakota in 1 week and move there with their families to be a part of our way of life. So where are we today? Today, South Dakota is thriving. We are growing like crazy. Hundreds of businesses have moved to our state. Thousands of people have moved to our state. We have a AAA credit rating. We have a fully funded pension plan. We've had historic revenues. We've paid off all of our debts in our technical schools and our universities. We've built roads, bridges, and dams and railroads. We have put more money into reserves than we've ever had before. Incomes have gone up over 30% since I've been governor in our state. People have more money in their pockets. And remember, in South Dakota, we don't have an income tax. We don't have a personal property tax. All we have is a 4.2% sales tax. And last year, we made the largest tax cut in South Dakota history and gave more money back to the people because it's their money. It's not the government's money. One of the things I'm the most proud of is that South Dakota has the highest birth rate in the nation. People are having babies. In fact, I've got 3 grandbabies of my own, and I think they're so incredibly special. We are the only state in the country that while you see all this madness that is going on under the Biden administration and the threats that we have to national security and all of the issues that are going on with the economy, we're the only state in the country where our mental health challenges are going down, our suicide rates are going down, and the only state where overdoses are dropping. And this is happening because people are happy. People are happy because they're free. They're happy because they're free and they get to have personal responsibility to make decisions for them and their families. Now listen. I believe in order to have sustained optimism in the face of difficulties, that you have to have somewhere to look to. You have to have somewhere to look to have hope. And this country is desperate for hope. Now listen, hope isn't just wishful thinking. Hope is optimism with a plan. And that's what we've got to deliver. We deliver hope, but we do that with an optimistic attitude and with a plan to take America back from this administration and make it great again and make it strong again. So yes, I've been bold. I have done some things in South Dakota that have led the way. First state to ban TikTok, and then other states and the federal government took action as well. Was the first state to go forward and to ban having a central bank digital currency, and took action, and other states have followed ever since that. I was the first governor to send National Guard to the southern border. When Governor Abbott asked for help, I said South Dakota will be there right now. We have since deployed 6 different units down to the southern border to help build, to patrol, to conduct surveillance, and to help make this America as safe as we possibly can. And I've got an engineering unit down there right now that's building barrier wall as fast as they can and anywhere they can to help make sure that we get to protect this country. We also passed the strongest bill in the nation to protect girls' sports. And since then, almost a dozen states have used our bill as model language because they know it's written correctly and it will withstand a court challenge and it will be upheld. And listen, we are not going to let mediocre men take away opportunities from exceptional women. We're just not going to let it happen. I had someone ask me not too long ago, they said, Kristi, how do you make your hard decisions? Like, I know you make a lot of decisions, but how do you make the hard ones? And I told them, I don't really think the hard ones are all that hard. I said, they're actually pretty easy for me. I'm a decision maker. I said, my whole life growing up, being raised by my dad who was a cowboy, on our ranch there wasn't any girl chores or boy chores. There's just work to be done, and we all did it together. When I got to college and when I was elected to the legislature, there was more men than women, but nobody really talked about it. When I went to Congress, there was not as many Republican women as there was men, and that was okay. Nobody ever discussed it, so I never really thought about it in my lifetime, and then I decided to run for governor. And I found out when I ran for governor in the polling that it was hurting me that I was a woman. You see, South Dakota had never seen a woman governor before. They were okay sending a woman to Congress to vote and do policies and stuff, but they weren't quite sure they wanted a woman to be the boss, to be the CEO. So I had to convince them. And when I got elected, I remember standing in the rotunda being sworn in for the inauguration ceremony. And as I was standing there, I was looking around at all the hundreds of people, and the ceremony started. I realized the entire ceremony was built around the fact that the day I was being sworn in as the very first female governor of the state of South Dakota was the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote in our state of South Dakota. It was the 100th anniversary. And they kept talking throughout the ceremony about how historic this was. That just 100 years before that, women couldn't even vote, and now 100 years later on that anniversary, we were swearing in the first female governor of the state of South Dakota. And I was standing there, and for the very first time, I started to get nervous. I started to think, oh my goodness, this is historic. This is kind of a big deal. I better not screw this up. But then I went and I put my hand on my dad's Bible, and I raised my right hand, and I took my oath. And when I was saying my oath back to the Chief Justice of our Supreme Court in South Dakota, I realized I was making two promises. The first promise was to uphold the Constitution of the great state of South Dakota. The second one was to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. And I thought, 2 promises? I could do that. That's not hard. So that's how I have made every single decision in my role as governor. Every decision has been, the very first question out of my mouth is it constitutional? Is it not constitutional? Does the Constitution say I have the authority to do that? Do I not have the authority to do that? And what happens if I overstep my authority? That is where the beginning of every decision has to start. So hard decisions aren't that hard if you've got your priorities right, if you've got your foundation right, if you love this country and you recognize that the power is not with the federal government. In fact, states are much more powerful than the federal government, but the real power granted to us by our Constitution is to the people, and it's given from God. That's where it comes from. So we've got a very weak president in the White House right now. He's a bumbling, weak, old man. I'm not sure if he can complete even daily activities and remember what he did that day. And when he is in the White House, we have extreme challenges. Russia invades its neighbors. China takes advantage of us all around the world. We have incredible dangers. Israel gets attacked. When you put President Trump back in the White House, peace deals get signed in the Middle East. The economy thrives. We take advantage of China. And America is respected again. That's what happens when President Trump comes back. Peace through strength. Peace through strength is what he brings. I'll give you an example. I was in Wisconsin recently doing some events for President Trump, talking to women and independents and different groups and people, asking them to get engaged and to think about this next election cycle. And I was talking with Kevin. Kevin was the youngest person to be held hostage by Iran back in the 80s when Jimmy Carter was president. Kevin and the rest of those Americans were held hostage by Iran for 444 days while Jimmy Carter negotiated. They were released on the day Ronald Reagan was sworn into office. Iran let them back. That's what peace through strength is. That's what peace through strength is. Jimmy Carter was a weak president, and Iran recognized immediately that Ronald Reagan wasn't going to put up with it anymore. Joe Biden is a weak president, and all of our enemies, foreign and domestic, are going to recognize that when Trump gets back in the White House, that he's not going to put up with it anymore either, that he is going to take action. He will give us economic strength, a secure border. He will make sure that we end political prosecutions, which we see across this country, and he will bring law and order back to our streets. That's what President Trump will deliver for us. So if you're sitting here and you're struggling to have sustained optimism, if you turn on the news at night and you get discouraged, I'm going to remind you of something. A lot of you in this audience are very young. You've got more of your life ahead of you than you have in your past behind you in the rearview mirror. At the founding of our country, when our founders decided, and those colonists decided to fight against the British Army and to take our freedoms for us and to write a Declaration of Independence, I want you to really think what they were doing. They were taking on the strongest military in the entire world. And they were doing it at a very young age. In fact, George Washington at the time was only 44 years old. John Adams was 40. Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old, and he wrote the Declaration of Independence at the age of 33. James Madison was 25 years old, and Alexander Hamilton was just 19. It's incredible, isn't it, that our founders were that young, and they gave us this gift of this country. Now, they were taking on the strongest military in the world, and those colonists went and picked up their personal hunting rifles and their muskets and decided to go fight for freedom. Now, if they can do that, we can do what we have to do this election cycle, can't we? We can do it. In fact, Ben Franklin at the time reminded them of the job. Ben Franklin said as he signed the Declaration of Independence, "We must all hang together, or most assuredly, we will all hang separately." They knew the risks, but they took on the fight anyways and did it for us. They gave us the greatest gift in human history, this experiment of a republic, if we can keep it. If we can keep it, and now is the time. They fought, and let's not lose it on our watch, okay? Be all in with me. I'll tell you one last story before I leave. Years ago, I had a lady walk up to me, and she said to me, "Kristi, my name is Sherry." And she said, "You don't know me, but I own a pearl store." And I said, "Really? You own a pearl store? It's all filled with pearls?" She goes, "Yes." And I said, "Well, why do you only sell pearls?" And she said, "I sell pearls because they are the only precious gem that is made from a living creature." She said, "All other precious gems are created a different way, but pearls are the only ones created by a living creature. And in order for that pearl to be created, that oyster has to go through something hard, something that causes it pain and is uncomfortable, and it's challenging for it. But it takes that hard, challenging thing and turns it into something beautiful, something that's precious." Since that day, I've always worn pearls. I've always worn some pearl on me somewhere to remind me that, yeah, life can be hard. There can be challenges. People will attack you, and maybe you've seen a few attacks on me lately. They just seem to keep coming. I think they're scared of me. I think that's the problem. Attacks will come, but I will tell you one thing. If you take the hard things in your life, if you take the hard challenges you see and the challenges that are facing this country, we can take that and use that to keep perspective and turn it into something precious, something beautiful, keep this country great, so that our kids and our grandkids have something that they can enjoy just like we were blessed with when we were born in the United States of America. It's going to take work, but I will tell you, sustained optimism while facing difficulties is something we can all be very proud of. Yes, it looks difficult out there right now. Yes, the world looks unstable. Yes, we have a president in the White House that is endangering our country. This election cycle isn't about Republicans versus Democrats, liberals versus conservatives. This election is about people who love America and those are who are trying to destroy America. That's what this election cycle is about. I know you all love America. I know you're committed. I know you're all in. I'm going to ask you this election cycle to go start having conversations with people you haven't talked to in a long time. We all understand the mission in this room. This is your mission and your pep rally and your talk on what you can do and go out. It is clear to me that there are people in this country that we are not winning their hearts and minds. We are right on our policies. We are right on our values. But we have to win their hearts and minds too. So I want you right now to think of someone that you have not spoken politics to for a while because they've offended you. Or maybe they won't talk to you because you've offended them. Well, get over it. Get over it and go talk to them. Have a conversation. Talk to them. Because we have to start asking them questions about their lives and what we can do to show them that all you have to do to see that leadership has consequences is look from state to state to see it mattered who was in charge. Look at what happened when President Trump was in the White House versus when Joe Biden was in the White House and how dramatically their lives changed. How much their energy costs have gone up, how much their grocery bill has gone up, how much more dramatically dangerous their life is now and unstable the world is because we don't have a strong leader. Those are the conversations you need to have. Somebody told me this world that is addicted to being offended, and I think they're right. We love to be offended by people, don't we? We just, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that. Oh my goodness, it's a horrible thing to say. Well, get over it. Every day people are going to throw offenses out at you. You're the one who decides if you want to pick it up and carry it around with you, but then you're the one who's carrying the burden. So let's go have those conversations and remember that we are more blessed than 99% of the people in the world just because we woke up this morning in the United States of America. What an incredible blessing that is. But when we do that, we will win. We will win, and we will win big. So may God bless you, and may God continue to bless the great United States of America. Thank you, everybody.
He's a bold guy, very, very successful, billionaire. He's incredibly charismatic and creates these breakthrough moments.
He's back.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
We're going to speak the truth.
I think we are skating on thin ice as a nation. We've lost our sense of who we are as Americans.
We are hungry for a cause, not a nation, not a corporation, not a virus is going to defeat us.
Forget about the other side. The other side is full of hypocrisies. We can't just criticize Biden. Focus on what we actually stand for.
We stand up for the truth. We're going to start running and do something. That is what will win us the revolution of 2024.
USA, USA, USA. Let's hear it. USA, 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 USA. I love it, guys. Thank you. It's good to be back. The People's Convention. We're going to make this happen. I just, they made me pound out 20 push-ups backstage. I love that. I'll tell you something. I'm going to kick this off with one thing. Is I was talking to Charlie right at the podcast upstairs before we came down here. I am sick and tired of talking about Joe Biden. I really am. And this is important for this year because, first of all, he's not really the president of the United States. Let's start with that. He is a puppet for the managerial class and the deep state that sits underneath him. But number two is, and I'm gonna say this for the last year, I'm gonna call it tonight. He is not gonna be the Democratic nominee that we're running against in this year's election either. You better get ready for somebody else. And so the reality is, what the heck are we gonna do about it? Could speculate who it's gonna be, forget about that. Well, we need to answer right now, and this is my charge to you. This is why I'm here today, is I am worried we are about to have another red wave that never comes in the year 2024. Complacency is not an option this year. That is why my message to you today is we got to ask ourselves who we are as Americans. Who are we as conservatives? Who are we as citizens of this nation? What does it mean to be a citizen of the United States of America in the year 2024? It means we believe in the ideals of 1776. That is what it means to be an American. 2024 is 1776 in the United States of America. And you guys are like the revolutionaries who fought that revolution. A lot of young people, that's why I love coming to these Turning Point events. It's going to be your generation that actually saves this country like it did the first time around. We are done obsessing with what the left puts on offer. They're good at this. They'll give you some vision. They'll give you something to work with. Race, gender, sexuality, climate. And we're sitting here criticizing them without offering an alternative vision of our own. What do we actually stand for? The individual, the family, the nation, and God beat race, gender, sexuality, and climate if we have the courage to actually stand for something. What does it mean to be an American? It means we believe you get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. That's why we're ending DEI and affirmative action across this nation. We are done with it. It means we believe in the rule of law. And I say this as the kid of 2 legal immigrants to this country. That means your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. And that is why we will use our own military to secure our own southern border and our northern border too. That's what it means to stand for the rule of law in the United States of America. And you know what? If we've had the largest influx of illegal migrants into this country in American history, then yes, we will have the largest mass deportation in American history. And we will not apologize for it. That is not racist. That is not xenophobic. It is what it means to stand for the rule of law in this country. End federal funding for sanctuary cities. Stop forking over our money to Central America until they have sealed their own borders. And you know what? You're not supposed to say this one, but I will. End birthright citizenship for the kids of illegals. It does not apply to them. That is how you step up and end the illegal mass migration infestation of this country. That's the first mass deportation that we need. But don't forget about the second one. This is what starts on day one of the second Trump term, I believe, is the mass deportation of 3 million federal bureaucrats out of Washington, D.C. That is how you drain the swamp. We're not holding back. You want to save this country. That is how you drain the swamp. Shut down these agencies. Go straight down the list. U.S. Department of Education, shut it down. ATF, shut it down. FBI, shut it down. You go straight down the list. You cannot reform these agencies. You want to get in there and afuera, shut it down. That's the future of this country. 3 branches of government in the United States, not 4. The managerial class, this is a war in this country. And I don't call this a war lightly. Right? War is one of these things that speaks itself into existence. But I mean this in a deep sense. We are at war as we were in the American Revolution. It is not between Democrat and Republican. It is not between black and white, or man and woman, or gay and straight. No. This is a war between the managerial class in the deep state and a everyday citizen in this country. This is a war between those of us who love the United States of America and our founding ideals, and those who hate this country and what we stand for. And right now, more than ever, we need a commander-in-chief who will lead us to victory in this war. And that man is your 47th president, Donald J. Trump, the next president of the United States of America, who's going to be right here with you tomorrow night. And this is your moment to send him back and save this country. I love it. That is who we are, represented in those stars and stripes on that flag. I am sick and tired of celebrating our diversity as a country, obsessing over our differences. Our diversity does not mean a damn thing unless we have something that unites us across that diversity. That is who we are. We are American, and we are proud of it. We're going through a crisis of self-confidence in this country. You got young people in this country. You got all people in this country. We are lost, hungry for purpose. We're hungry to be part of something bigger than ourselves, yet we cannot even answer what it means to be an American. I am proud to be a citizen of this country. I am proud that my parents came here with nothing, and I have founded multi-billion-dollar companies, ran for U.S. president at the age of 38 as the youngest ever Republican to run for that office. That is possible in this country because America is great. America is good. It is the greatest nation known to mankind, and I will not apologize for our nation. That is who we are. We're not some sorry third world banana republic that uses the court system to decide who becomes the president of the United States of America. We, the people, decide who becomes the president of the United States of America. That is who we are. That is who we've always been. What are we running to? We're running from something. What are we running to? We're running back to a country where you are free to speak your mind as long as I get to in return. Where you get ahead with your own hard work and your commitment and your dedication. That if you play by the rules and work hard, you do get to live a good life and enjoy the American dream in this country. Where you don't have to choose between speaking your mind freely and putting food on the dinner table. between the American dream and the First Amendment to say this is the country where you get to enjoy both of those things at the same time. The country where we, the people, decide at the ballot box who governs, not unconstitutionally infected prosecutors in godforsaken places like New York. That's who we are as Americans. And if we revive that, we don't have to be this nation in decline anymore. We don't have to be at the end of ancient Rome. I truly believe this. I'm not going to be, I told a smaller group of students here earlier today this. I'm not going to be the guy who comes in here and peddles fake optimism to you. A lot of people who wanted me to be that guy in the presidential debates last year. It's not the truth. I can tell you it's morning in America right now. It's not. You have eyes. You can see it. But it can be. I'm not going to come in here and tell you the American dream is alive and well. That's one of the standard lines you're supposed to say if you're running for president. It is not alive and well. It is alive and hanging on for life support. But it can be alive and well again if we end the Fed and actually grow the economy and end the administrative state and actually unlock this country and do the things we actually need to get done. It can be alive and well again. But that is going to take sacrifice. It is going to take a fight. It is not going to be the man you're going to hear tomorrow night. It's not just going to be Donald Trump coming from on high down to save us. He's going to do his part. I promise you that. I promise you, whatever it is, I will do my part to save this country. But if we're going to save this country, it is going to be because we save ourselves, every one of us, every one of you doing your part as our founding fathers did in 1776. This isn't somebody else's job. This is your job this year in your country to reclaim it. That is who we are. And if we do, then I will look my two sons in the eye and tell them and mean it, that this is still the country where no matter who you are or where your parents came from or what your skin color is or how long your last name is, that you will still get ahead in this country with your own commitment and dedication without fear, and that whatever your God-given potential is, you have the chance to achieve it in the United States of America. That is who we are. Thank you, guys. God bless you and your families, and may God bless our United States of America. Do not stop fighting for this country. We will not stop until we get this job done. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. They gave me a lot of time here. I think we got time for questions. You guys want to ask some questions? Let's open this up, man. I can see a microphone up there. It's we the people today. Let's hear from you. I love it. I will do whatever's required for this country. I promise you guys that. Come up here and tell me what's required. You guys, give it up, sir, right there.
Vivek, you are like the energizer for the party right now. Where do we need to put you in the Trump administration?
Look, I'm not one of these guys who's like, okay, here's my plan and here's, play the jigsaw puzzle. Let's win this election. I will do whatever's required to win the election this year. And then to implement that agenda, I'm going to get it done. The things I laid out for you, I know President Trump in his heart wants to get all of that done. So if I'm participating in the 2 mass deportations of illegals from this country and effective illegal bureaucrats from Washington, D.C., I'm a happy man. And then we'll get on with the next 250 years after that. There you go. Go back there.
I don't want to go move.
Yep, just ask it to me. I can't see it really, but there you go.
How can we get you to come to Pennsylvania? How can we get you to come to Pennsylvania?
Yep. Well, look, I've considered the invitation accepted. And I've already come a few times. We did some grassroots voter mobilization already, even after I dropped out of the race. Come this right now, you got me, held my feet to the fire, you have my commitment. Pennsylvania's a must. We got to do it. And this election is going to be won by razor-thin margins. We don't want to show up on November 6th, wake up that morning, and ask ourselves, what else could I have done today? Ask yourself that question now. And now is your time to answer it. Answer that not on November 6th, but answer it today. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'll see you in PA.
Vivek, good to see you. I'm a pastor from Iowa. You ran a fabulous campaign in Iowa. God bless you. God bless your family. I'm also a missionary in Armenia. And I noticed that you have spoken about Armenia. I was a witness to the ethnic cleansing of Nagorno-Karabakh, Artsakh, and the desecration of the oldest Christian churches in the world. It's the oldest Christian nation. How are we as the United States going to get behind persecuted Christians in places like the South Caucasus and the Middle East? How can we do that? And how can we stand for freedom and liberty and justice for our country and allow these Christians to be persecuted the way they have been in places such as Armenia?
Well, thank you, Pastor. Good to talk to you again. And I'm glad you're raising this because I want to answer this in a way that really clarifies the answer here. Because you might hear about this. I was the only presidential candidate who spoke about this because it's important. There's 120,000 Armenian Christians who were displaced from their homeland in the Artsakh region. Does that mean that we should be going to war and fighting somebody else's war for their border? As I've opposed it in Ukraine, we shouldn't be doing it in Armenia either. But actually, here's the dirty little secret. It is actually the U.S. taxpayer, all of us, who is funding Azerbaijan to actually do it. That's the ugly underbelly of the whole thing is our own taxpayer dollars are paying for it. So the irony is everybody who's somehow in the Ukraine caucus, which is the most popular political party in the United States of America apparently, doesn't have a peep to say about actually the real human rights travesty that we're responsible for funding. So here's my belief. It's controversial, but I'll say it anyway. The first and sole moral duty of U.S. elected leaders is actually to the citizens of the United States of America. And we stand with our allies by not funding the very people who are trampling over them. And you have 120,000 reasons for me to continue to talk about this issue as I will, and I'm hoping to travel to Armenia later this year to actually make the point. So thank you, my man.
I'll invite you. Come with me.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Great to see you.
What besides pray is the most important thing we young people can do for our country?
I'll give it to you. How old are you? You say as young people, huh?
I'm 14.
You're 14 years old. Give this woman, young woman, a round of applause. That's a brave question. So I'll tell you, right now, I think we have a culture of fear in this country. Spread like an epidemic, faster than COVID-19, okay? All 60 directions. COVID, maybe it'll spread a little bit if you cough this way. Fear spreads all directions. Here's my ask of you. When you find yourself in a room and you are the only person who believes what you do, I'm going to ask you today to stand up and say it. Say it with a spine and say it with conviction. But part of respecting your neighbor and your friend is to tell them what you actually believe. And if you do that, you know what? Fear has been infectious, but courage can be contagious too in this country. It just requires more people like you to actually step up and show it. So yes, pray, number one, and number two, speak your mind and don't apologize to anybody for it. That's really what it means to be a young American today. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Vivek, just want to say, longtime fan, longtime supporter. I'm 18 years old. I'm here from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And seeing your passion, seeing your drive is just so encouraging to a young conservative like me. One day I want to be on the stage like you, encouraging young Americans, young and old in this country, just like you. And my question for you as a Christian in the political landscape, in the political arena, how can the Christian Church of America, which is so important to revitalizing the American dream, how can we get involved? What are good ways?
So look, I think this is such an important question as I talked about individual, family, nation, and God. It's not a four-letter word. And part of what's happened is the same way we apologize for our own nation as the United States of America, I think a lot of Christians have been taught to apologize for who they are or what their faith actually is. That's part of the reason. The question about Armenia, the last guy was standing where you are. The reason you don't hear about the Armenian human rights catastrophe is because the victims in that case are actually Christian. And the reality is you need to stop apologizing for your beliefs. We all need to. I'm Hindu. You know this. I believe in one true God. I believe he puts us here for a purpose. But I will say it is a lot harder to be any faith than any other faith that's harder to be today in the United States. It is to actually be Christian, because you're taught that you're supposed to apologize for your beliefs. And I reject that. Our founding fathers rejected that. And so part of this is going to require some sacrifice, even when it's not popular to say. Tell people why you believe in God. Tell people why you believe in Christ. Tell people why you live the life the way you actually do, and embody that by example. And here's what I see, especially young people. You said you're 18. A lot of young people are quietly hungry for something bigger. Right? They've been served social media algorithms. They've been served other religions. Wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, COVIDism, globalism, Fauciism. You go straight down the list. These are the climate religion in particular. Why do you see people bending the knee to, Greta Thunberg being some type of modern Joan of Arc figure? It's because if you stop believing in God, you're going to believe in some other false idol instead. You might as well believe in the real thing. And I'm going to ask you to make sure you're expressing your beliefs to give other people the permission to express theirs too. Thank you, my man. I appreciate it.
Hi, Vivek. Great to see you again. My name is Tyler Sonkran. I'm a 24-year-old from Waterford, Michigan, and I'm running for Township Trustee. I had the opportunity to ask you this question once and bumped into you in a hallway, but your answer was very inspiring, and I want you to share that with any young people out here who are considering running for office. My question to you was, I'm the youngest person in my race. You are the youngest person in your race. How did you use your youthfulness to your advantage?
Well, I used it. I don't remember what we said in the hallway necessarily, but I'll tell you what I believe off the bat right now is our founding fathers were people whose best days in life were still ahead of them, actually. Thomas Jefferson was 33 when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. That's 5 years younger than me. If I can run for president at the age of 38, imagine Thomas Jefferson starting an entire nation at the age of 33. Alexander Hamilton was a decade younger even still. You think about the last 20 years of misplaced public policy, foreign wars that didn't advance our interests, racking up $34 trillion of national debt that your generation now bears on its shoulders. You know what? You got to take it into your own hands to say, you're going to be the generation that pays the price for those mistakes. You're going to be the generation that bears the responsibility for getting us out of it. So if our founding fathers could do it in 1776, then it's just as true today that it will take somebody like you, whose best days in life are still ahead of you, to see a country whose best days are still ahead of itself. And if you do, then I'm confident our best days will actually still be ahead of us, man. Good luck. I'm excited for you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Go right here.
Good afternoon, Michigan. Good afternoon, Vivek. I just want to say your media team and all the social media, TikTok, YouTube, everything you do, you've done a wonderful job getting your message out to the youth, to the younger demographics. To the broader conservative audience and the broader conservative figures, what can they do to better grasp that younger demographic that we all know is so important to the future of this country?
So here's what I see, actually. I've talked to a lot of good Republican politicians. I think a lot of them are actually, I don't say this derisively, I just think it's true. They're actually scared of interfacing with people from the next generation. And part of what we got to realize is both sides of that have some fear in them. I think a lot of young people in this country right now are lost, hungering for meaning and purpose at a moment when faith in God and belief in your country, belief in yourself, belief in your family have disappeared. And yet, you have people from an older generation of political leaders who look at those young people who are sometimes screaming their beliefs, not because they actually believe them, but because they're lost and hungering for actual direction, hide. Go into their shells. Say they're not going to come to a college campus unless the questions are pre-screened. And so I think that gets us into this vicious negative cycle. And so my answer to my fellow Republican leaders, you could say, I'd say tell the Democrats the same thing too, but this is for our own party, is show up where you're not supposed to. Show up without fear. If you want to lead a country, lead the entire country, young and old, black and white. Not 100% of people are going to agree with you, but that's okay. And that's what I respect about what Donald Trump's doing now in this phase of the campaign. Going to the South Bronx. Look at where this People's Convention here is right now, in the middle of hard blue Detroit, in the cities of this country. If you show up for the people will show back up for you. America first includes all Americans. And if we embrace that message, I think we have a chance to win this in a landslide. Thank you, man. I appreciate the question.
So as someone who has grown up in the public school system, I'm about to enter my senior year, and I'm so sick and tired of seeing the corruption within administration and their willingness to bend over backward for these leftist ideals. What can I do to help stand up when it feels like everyone in power is so against me?
Well, look, I think that a lot of the people elected to Congress, let's start with the rules of the road here. We have lost our sense of citizenship in this country, right? We don't pledge allegiance to our own country anymore, not really. And that's why I stand by a position I adopted last year. I think every high school senior should be able to pass and should have to pass the same civics test that every immigrant has to pass to become a voting citizen of this country, and take the same oath of loyalty to the United States of America in order to become a full citizen of this country. Now, if you're in public office, I don't think that in any office, but certainly in public office leading this country, you can't have conflicting loyalties. You can't have a loyalty to your pocketbook while you're actually governing this country. End trading of individual stocks for the bureaucracy and for Congress. End lobbying for 10 years or more after you've left the government. You shouldn't be able to lobby that government. That's the source of the corruption. But here's my view is, and I don't think we should have dual citizenship for people who are serving in public office either. That's also something that's a touchy issue. But I believe in that. But I think what you're going to see is if we see our public officials demonstrate greater loyalty to our own citizens, then our citizens will actually start pledging loyalty and allegiance to our nation once again. And I think those two things are going to work together. So the first part comes first. Send somebody who's a real outsider into the White House, back to the White House this time around, and to clean the house this time. But then it's going to be bottom up, your generation to step up and say, okay, you guys are doing your part. Now as a young person, I'm going to step up and do mine and actually pledge allegiance to making the sacrifices needed to save our country. So thank you very much. I appreciate that question. Last two, and then I think we're done.
First time I saw you, you were going to Pizza Ranch on your campaign. Got me hooked into politics. I've been listening to podcasts every day ever since. Where can I build experience to go into politics in the future?
I would say don't worry about building your experience to go into politics. Build the muscle of figuring out how you succeed in any way, inside politics or out. You see, this is the thing that we fall into the trap of sometimes. I've fallen into this trap. Every one of you here, 2,000 of you in the audience right now, every one of you has your own God-given gifts. They're not the same as the person sitting next to you. They're not the same as me, and they're not the same as you. Figure out what is your unique God-given gift. Look yourself in the mirror tonight when you go home and say, what gifts have I been given that nobody else has? And then figure out how you use those gifts to do what is right for this country and for yourself in the short time you're given. You do that, you know what? You could drive your change through politics. It might be through business. It might be through university education. We're going to need to fix all of them to save this country, and I'm going to count on you to get that job done, man. Thank you very much. We'll come right here.
Hi, welcome to Detroit. I'm a Metro Detroit homegirl. I work for one of the big three with the UAW, and I would really like you to take this opportunity to explain to my union brothers and sisters how illegal immigration hurts our industry, hurts our jobs, and why they should turn to the Republican Party instead of staying with the Democrats as the UAW tells us to.
Sure, and the real people we need to be picketing are the people in charge of the current federal government that have given us the flailing economy that leaves every one of those union members holding the bag. So here's my message is, it's not to the union leadership, but to the union membership of this country. Illegal mass migration is eroding our national foundation of who we are. We got the rule of law thrown out the window, but all of those open American jobs are now actually being taken by people who crossed this border illegally rather than those who worked hard and got it done the right way around. So will you agree with the Republican Party on every element of its policy plank? Of course not. That's fine. You don't have to agree with 100% of what Donald Trump says or what the Republican Party says to be able to still say that, you know what, that's the party that's standing for American citizens in this country. You as union members are our fellow citizens, and America First means putting the citizens of our country, including those union members, first. That's my message to your brothers and sisters. And thank you for asking that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Right there. We got a question right there.
One last question.
Yes.
Hi, I'm from Hilliard, Ohio, right next to you guys, actually. And I just want to say thank you for coming and really appreciate everything you guys do. My question is very simply, I'm 21, and how can I help out in this election cycle? I'm volunteering for Bernie Moreno's campaign for U.S. Senate, and I know he's a great guy, but what else can I do to help out?
Well, thank you, man. What's your name? My Ohio native.
Evan.
Evan. Thank you for coming out here, Evan, and you're 21 years old. The fact that you're asking that question is already a service to this country. I've endorsed Bernie. I'm traveling the state. I'll probably see you campaigning right with you in our home state. Here's what I'll ask of every one of you. For those of you who have money, either you're running for office or you're going to support somebody good who actually is. Take that pocketbook out and actually support the people who can. But it's not just through money. If you don't have money, you got time. Spread the message through your own effort. You don't care if you're knocking on one door, you're knocking on two, or you're making phone calls. However you're doing it, spread your own message and just speak authentically for who you are. Don't speak on behalf of the Republican Party. Speak on behalf of Evan. And I think we don't do that enough in our country today, right? We're taught the scripts that were handed from on high. Just tell the people what you as a citizen of this country actually believe. Tell the person next to you, you don't have to agree with 100% of what I say, just like I'm not going to agree with 100% of what you say. Find the people who disagree with you. The thing you really want to do to help this country in the next 6 months, all of you, is don't just talk to the people in this room. Don't just talk to your friends and family members and your neighbors who agree with you. Do it just like Donald Trump is doing. Show up in the places where you're not supposed to show up. Invite that neighbor who has that Biden sign in their front yard. Invite them over to dinner and challenge them and have an open debate, an open discussion at the dinner table. Emerge as a friend on the other side, but convince them and bring them along. That's what it's going to be required. It's one less vote for the other side, one more vote for ours. And if we start actually talking to the people who we're supposed to disagree with, what we might just discover is that we didn't actually disagree as much as we thought in the first place. That's how we're going to get this country back. That's how we're going to restore respect for every one of our citizens, regardless of their age or their skin color, or even whether they voted Democrat or Republican in the last election cycle. The question in this race, and I'll end with this, is, are we actually one country or not? That's what's on the ballot this November. If I asked that question 10 years ago, you would have said that was a silly question. Of course we're one country. Well, today we live in a country where you got people who consume one set of news from one place, one set of news from a different place. People who buy one type of coffee, people who buy a different type of coffee. The question right now for the country is, are we actually still one nation as the United States of America or not? I don't think the answer is obvious. But in my heart, I believe we still are. And I think this is our last chance to prove it in this country. And if every one of you starts speaking your mind in the open again, you will realize that, you know what? That artificial division, and a lot of that is created by the media, designed to divide and conquer our people. At least 80% of us in this country are on the winning side of this war. Half the 20% are people younger than Evan and me who never learned those ideals in the first place. We're going to bring them along too, and we will still be a country whose best days are still ahead and has another 250 years and then some still left in our country's history. Thank you guys for coming out. God bless you and your families. Let's win it this November, and God bless our United States of America. Thank you.
One more time for Vivek Ramaswamy. How great was that? So, couple things, everybody. For those of you that know Turning Point Events, we're ending this session early tonight. And in fact, we got to that so fast because we want to make sure you have plenty of time to support our sponsors. As you guys exit tonight, go say hello and become a new ballot chaser. Say hi to all of our new sponsors. Also, I have a new book coming out this weekend called Right Wing Revolution. I will be signing it out there at the winning team booth at 7 p.m. So come by, get a copy of the book. I'd love to sign a copy for you. And tomorrow, please have a lot of patience as we have Secret Service and lots happening tomorrow because we have President Donald Trump keynoting tomorrow night. Make sure you make time to come to the breakout sessions tomorrow, bright and early. I will see you at the winning team publishing booth. We'll be signing books there for quite a while. 7 p.m. God bless, guys. See you tomorrow.